Good afternoon, folks. Robert Chappell here, Executive Editor, Madison365, with your daily update for Thursday, January 24th. Does that sound right? It is a chilly but beautiful day, and we got some local and national news for you. We'll get to that right away. The Madison Public Library last several months ago put out a call for folks to present ideas. That if you were going to take over the library and try to teach something, what would you do? And they had a real emphasis on inclusivity and diversity. And the first of those events is coming up this weekend, and it is hosted by three Indigenous folks from Madison, all of whom are at least in part of the Anishinaabe Nation community. So a couple of them have other tribal affiliations as well. All of that is in our story at Madison365.org right now. But the presentation is called Thrival Tools, and it's about it's all about how Indigenous cultures and Indigenous traditions help people get through winters, which is an important thing for Indigenous people centuries ago, and it's important for us now. Right, we think about Indigenous cultures as past tense, but they're clearly not. So that's again this Saturday at the Central Library downtown Madison at 6 o'clock. Lots of different folks presenting. John Greendeer, Greg Johnson, Shadera Kilfoy Flores, all making presentations along with some other folks. But look at the story. It's at Madison365.org right now. And I should say also, our reporter Rodlin May Banting is attending this, and we'll have a report for us next week, a recap, if you're not able to make it. Also today, we have a report. This actually happened earlier this month, but for whatever reason, we didn't get a press release on it, and we're therefore unaware until I happened to see it on Twitter. Open Society Foundations is a global, international organization supporting democracy, basically, and social justice, and making, propping up systems that allow citizens to have a voice. And they decided, after everything that happened in 2020, to put some money into Black-led movements, specifically Black-led movement leaders. So they have chosen 16 people to receive substantial grants, $150,000 each, with no strings attached. This isn't like a grant where you have to spend it on a certain thing and then write up a whole big report. This is just, we're writing you a check, you do what you want with it. But of the 16, 2 are from Wisconsin, which I think is fantastic. On the left, you see Em Adams, who's the co-executive director of Freedom Inc., which is an organization that provides direct services as well as advocacy for Black and Hmong, as well as queer, LGBTI, LGBTQI, and women and girls who are suffering from violence and things. Real wide-ranging organization that really takes a leadership role here in Madison. And then on the right is Marquesa Tucker Harris. She's the executive director of the African American Roundtable in Milwaukee. She is a outspoken abolitionist and just movement leader in Milwaukee. And both of them received these awards. And these, I should say, these are not anything they applied for. This is the staff of Open Society Foundation nominated people, just knew what work is happening on the ground. And then a committee chose the 16 recipients. So that's fantastic for them. Also today, yesterday, I should say, was a big day for One City Schools. It's the culmination of well over 10 years, closer to 15 years of work by Kaleem Kerr, who's there on the left signing the contract. He's been working for, since 2009, 2010 to create a Black-focused charter school. And it was rejected by the school board in Madison. And he's gone on to open One City Schools, which is started as kind of a 4K daycare, and then became a charter K through second grade, and then up through sixth grade. And now they've built this high school, and they bought this building out of Monona with lots of philanthropic help. And they've got a charter from the University of Wisconsin to basically run a K through 12 charter schools focused on Black students, who are, by the way, disproportionately underachieving in Madison public schools and every public school in Wisconsin. So yesterday, Tommy Thompson, the president of the UW system, interim president, retiring president of the UW system, was there on hand to sign the contract at their new location. Our editor, Dave Dahmer, was there and took some pictures and has the story at Madison365.org. And finally, in national news, the 3 other police officers who were present when George Floyd was murdered were convicted today on federal civil rights violation charges. Basically, a jury deliberated 13 hours and found that they were criminally responsible for their lack of action to stop what Derek Chauvin was doing in murdering George Floyd. Derek Chauvin was, you remember, was found guilty by a state court back in August. Is it that long ago already? And later pled guilty to the federal civil rights charges. And these 3 went to trial and were found guilty today. It's unclear. I mean, there's not a real solid sentence prescription for a civil rights violation, but guidelines would suggest that they will probably get a few years of prison time and not much more than that. All right, that's the news. Let's hit some COVID numbers because they're fine, honestly. We are looking at we're still the entire week since Monday. We've had triple-digit case counts, which we haven't had in a long time. 775 new cases today puts our 7-day average at 864. It was, I would say, it was 900 something yesterday. 981 yesterday. Is that right? We're back to. Let's see. We're back to like August. Yeah. We're about where we were in August of last year when Delta was first starting to hit. The positive test rate, which is another important measure, is down to 5.7%. It peaked at 30%, right? We're at 30%, literally 3 out of 10 or 1 in 3 tests was coming back positive. Back down to 5.7, which is good. Still on the high side, but it's headed down. Like by this time next week, it'll probably be back below 3 if this trend continues, which is where we need it to be. If it's below 3, you're under control, right? A lot of public health folks will tell you if you're below 3, you don't need to be restricted anymore. You need to be able to, like, you can take your masks off, you can go out, you can do stuff, you can gather, because the reason it stays under 3 is that everybody's vaccinated now. And then if it does go up back above 3, then you start to put masks back on, et cetera. But, we're headed that direction very quickly. The death average, the average of new confirmed deaths, these are not deaths that happened right now, but these are being confirmed right now, is 11. That's down from 12 yesterday. I continue to remain pleasantly shocked at how low this number is. We did have 23 deaths confirmed yesterday. So the fact that this is good news means nothing to those 23 families who lost a loved one in the past month. Right? So I want to be sensitive to that. But I really expected this to be 60 or 70 at this point, and it's 11, which is, when they said Omicron was not as severe, it really wasn't overall. I mean, it was obviously very severe for some number of people who are vulnerable, who are unvaccinated, or who were just immunocompromised. But for the most part, it caused a lot of people to be hospitalized but not die, which is, and certainly some people who are hospitalized are going to have long-term complications. So I don't mean to minimize it in any way, but we're just not seeing the deaths that we saw last year, 2020. Speaking of hospitalizations, another big drop. Now, I had mentioned yesterday the decrease in hospitalizations had leveled off slightly. It's not leveled off anymore. It's continuing to fall very rapidly. 596 people currently hospitalized. That is 67 fewer than yesterday. That's like a 10% decrease in a day. That's 174 in the past week. So I'm not sure what happened on a Wednesday that everybody just got out of the hospital. But to have a 10% decrease in the number of people hospitalized in a single day, that's bonkers. That's wild. 126 people in the ICU. Now, the available ICU beds is down a little bit. It's 135 currently available ICU beds across the state. That's down a little bit, and this is pure speculation, but that there were surgeries, elective surgeries. Big surgeries can be technically elective, right? A heart surgery that maybe doesn't need to happen today, but could happen next week. That's still elective. So I wonder if some of those types of procedures, surgeries, hospital admissions that were postponed because of COVID are now starting to happen again, which is then causing people, non-COVID cases, to take up ICU beds just because they're getting out of heart surgery and they have to be in the ICU for a day. That's my speculation. But still, 135 beds available across the state is still much better than much more than was available even a month ago. So that's the news for today. That's what we have. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I'll be back tomorrow with hopefully even continued good news on the COVID front. And until then, take care of yourself. Have a wonderful evening. We'll talk to you soon.
This is 365 Media.